I blindly walked into perimenopause. It got so bad for me, it just felt like a black cloud had closed me in. I thought, I don't know if I can live like this, if this is what life is like.
Wow.
Our very own Coach Natasha.
She's a certified specialist helping women thrive in midlife. There's things that we can take control of. You don't have to have your mum's menopause.
Typically, ladies feel like they have to grin and bear it. This is where you pivot. You look after yourself. You recognise that you're worth it.
If menopause or perimenopause is wreaking that much havoc on your life, and then you're able to take something like HIIT, do the pros outweigh the possible cons.
HRT is there for symptoms, but actually there's more to it than that. Control the controllables, making sure that you are hitting that protein, that you are active, that you are moving. It's non-negotiable. It's like paint rain. You've just got to get it done.
We've got a few menopause myths. So weight gain during menopause is inevitable.
This is a podcast episode on its own, isn't it?
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
And we are women's weight loss experts on a mission to empower you to take control of your health and your weight permanently, no matter what age you are. But we love sharing our stories of women doing this at age 20, age 30, age 50, age 80 on our Instagram page. And we also have amazing clients doing the exact same, taking control of their health, getting fit, getting strong. And our Body Smart grads are sharing those stories for us. Even better though, we have got our very own Coach Natasha with us today, who is on a mission herself to talk about the fact that life doesn't stop as you get older and age is just a number. So can we start with, how old are you, Tash?
Firstly, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. And I'm 51 and a half almost.
I love it. So good, count every month.
yeah, exactly.
Make every month count.
Exactly.
But if you are listening, you can't actually see our gorgeous Natasha. If you saw her in the street, you would not guess she is 51. Would you?
No, definitely not. Enough. The arms as well on you, there's Tash. Fantastic shape.
She is just a walking advert for the fact if you do the right things, take care of yourself, then aging, but also menopause doesn't have to be like a stop sign for how you look and how you feel. So what we wanted to talk about today is the fact that you are very open about being perimenopausal and you're using it to spread the word to our clients and to wider audience on social media of like how actually empowering this part of life can be. So how do you find, or how did you even get to the point where you thought, do you know what, I need to talk about this?
For my journey, I had a midlife crisis, I think, at 45. So I realised that maybe I'm going to live till 90. I'm halfway through my life. And I had a lot of limiting beliefs up until that point, and I had never really set any goals. And I literally just decided to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's when my life changed. And that's where I actually pursued, could I do something that I enjoy, I love? What is it?
Was there a catalyst to that?
I knew that having raised my children, I was part-time working, but I'd never really fulfilled any particular dream. I'd tried a website making handmade children's gifts. I'd done lots of different jobs for all different things, everything I've literally tried. And it just, nothing had clicked. And I just thought, it's under my nose, but I don't know what it is. And then I was in the garden. It was probably about this time, literally 6 years ago. I Googled, am I too old to be a personal trainer at 45?
Wow. And the answer was on Google?
Absolutely not.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was my first real jump financially, but also more from an education standpoint to actually put myself in that position.
So why a personal trainer? Why did you want?
Because I love fitness. I've always loved sport. But I was no gym bunny. I had never gone to the gym like most ladies, or
At 45?
No, I'd gone to the gym, but not at 20. I used to play netball. I was more team player sport. I'd never stepped foot in a gym in my 20s. So that didn't come until I was 30 odd, but I didn't have a clue from what was a bone to a muscle to anything. So it was a complete really, I'm an absolute fraud here. But obviously I did my study, I qualified, and I started running as well. And I think the catalyst of the two just then changed my mindset, and the running transpired with my husband getting cancer. At the time, I was running my first ever 10K, and it was the day before his operation. And I'd never run that far before, but I was determined to get under an hour, which I did. And he messaged me on my watch and said, good luck. And I was thinking, this is nothing to what he's going to have to do. And I think that was just the catalyst. And his operation didn't go well. He is fine, but he lost his kidney, but he nearly died as well. So it wasn't what we expected to be keyhole surgery.
Yeah.
And I think that had a deep, profound effect on me. And the start of the journey of why I wanted to do what I wanted to do was even then more cemented.
And was that just like the whole, life's too short not to take some of these risks? Like I will need to go and at least try something else and go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just was like, I'm going to do... I literally, when I finished that race, I got given a leaflet for a 10-miler. Oh, yeah.
So how different was life, I guess, like what were you doing for work before 45?
I started off by working in investment banking out after doing my A-levels, and then I came out of that when I had my children. So the job that I was doing prior to the transition, I was working for an angel investor who invested in early stage tech, and I was his mission control. So he did teach me a lot. I learned, I do think that there was a huge amount of growth that I went through working for him for 8 years.
But just
8 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a small career change then. Just,
Yeah.
it's very, very different, isn't it, to go from investment banking and working in the sort of tech side of the world to personal training.
Yeah. But what I love about it is you're so relatable to your clients because you haven't always been a personal trainer. They can look at some personal trainers and think, oh, it's easy for you. You get to go to the gym all day, every day. But you're like, no, I've really done what you're trying to do. I've had kids, had a really full-on job, I've worked in corporate, and you can still do all this stuff. Trust me, because I've been there, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I just think it's recognising that one of the biggest things that I've learned in this journey of coaching the ladies, which I'm so privileged to do, is that we're all the same. I know we know that, but then when it actually comes to it, there's a face that everyone puts on, and we all think that everyone's got their shit together, right? Should I say that? And you then think that everyone knows and has got it sorted, and it's only you. You're the only one that's feeling the mind monkeys. And I actually put a post in my group chat on Monday about my monkeys I had with the running, and I got such positive feedback from the ladies about, oh my God, and it's just that reality that we want to talk and share that we're not alone. And I think that's why the menopause, I'm so passionate about that, is because we need to get the conversation started.
Mm-hmm. Because it is something that every woman goes through. And it's only just really becoming a topic of conversation that's out in the open, isn't it?
I'm really quite surprised, how little we do actually know. I'll put my hands up to say that, yes, I knew my mum was going through menopause. She had terrible hot flushes, but didn't really think of anything more of it. Never asked any questions. My sister-in-law had a forced menopause through surgery, and again, I knew she had a terrible time, and obviously I showed empathy, but I didn't really understand. And then I blindly walked into perimenopause, or, it smacked me around the face of, I guess, retrospectively at 47.
So how did that look for you? How did you know, oh, this is what it is?
Well, I didn't for 2 years.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So what looking
That's
back
super
then?
common.
Yeah.
Looking back then, like because sometimes a lot of the symptoms you can kind of put down to like, oh, maybe I'm just not getting the best sleep, or maybe I haven't been eating well, or maybe I'm a bit under the weather. Like what sort of symptoms can you in retrospect look at and be like, that was perimenopause?
So I remember one of them was heart palpitations. It would be at night time. I was, about to drop off to sleep, and then my heart would just go absolutely mental. And I think, what the hell is happening to me? I stupidly thought that your periods just petered out, and they didn't. They just got worse and worse and worse and heavier and heavier and heavier, to the point that I was anemic. And when I was anemic, I didn't realise, and I put it down to just being busy, work, tired, all of those sorts of things. And then I remember training for a half marathon, and I couldn't even run 5K. And I was thinking, I honestly thought I was having a heart attack. And that's when I went to the doctor. But one of the other symptoms that I had, I noticed, and this is, I'm going to be really, really transparent here, because I think it's really important to talk about this, that people feel embarrassed to talk about, the urinary changes. So that was one of the biggest things that I noticed, and it was awful.
As in infections or?
No, urgency.
Oh, okay.
Suddenly
changed.
So
your pelvic health changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Just out of the blue. And I thought it was because I'd done a shred and perhaps I'd done too many sit-ups or something. I didn't know why I suddenly needed to go to the toilet all the time.
Yeah.
Literally all the time.
And actually, perimenopause and menopause is one of the key times, other than postpartum, when pelvic health issues come to light, isn't it? We were talking about this earlier. Like, people don't realise that that's a common symptom. And they also, on the other hand, think, oh, well, it's just a little bit of letting myself. It's not that bad. So they don't ask for help.
Well, there's two caveats of that. There's urinary incontinence, and then there's urgency. So there's two sides to both. So I had the urgency that I always wanted to go. So, I'd go half hour later, I want to go again. Go to the toilet, want to go again. And it got ridiculous that it was every half hour. And I remember at the time, I couldn't do anything because I was having to think, where's the toilet?
Constantly.
Yeah.
And
like a day out would have been off the cards.
It got so bad for me, mindset-wise, I thought, I don't know if I can live like this, if this is what life is like.
Wow.
And so how did you go about tackling it?
I went to the doctors to first, find out what was actually happening, because again I just thought what's gone wrong. I didn't even put it together that it was perimenopause at the time. Just I didn't understand why something had changed. And the doctor that I saw was very, very good, and at the time she said that you can get caught in a negative feedback loop, the brain, about that urgency. So we can give you medication that can stop the brain thinking that and calm that down, and obviously do pelvic floor exercises. And that was the first time that she ever mentioned the word menopause, perimenopause. And she gave me those tablets and it helped. And honestly, I mean, it was a dark time for me because I couldn't do anything. Like I literally, my life was it just felt like a black cloud had closed me in, because you can't believe what that feeling is like if you feel like you need to go to the toilet. Like if you've had a kidney infection, it's like that, but without the pain.
Yeah.
And also if you're used to having the freedom of like, I'm going to go and run 10K or whatever, and now you feel like you're constrained to staying at home, actually a lot of what keeps you mentally well has been taken away.
Yeah.
And it's very common, at least in menopausal women, to have really bad spouts of mental health. And you're saying this alone had a big impact on yourself?
More than I gave credit or opened up to anyone about. And lucky enough, the doctor was really supportive, and just that medication alone obviously broke that cycle for me. I still hadn't then gone down the route of menopausal symptoms in other areas, but she was supportive to say that I had explained about the periods and that actually I probably need to go back on the coil. And I was like, really? And she said, no, yeah, you do. And that was a long time after that. And I had that fitted, and then I had to build my iron back up. And then she said to me then, see how you feel. And if you need to, you can slap on some gel. That was the way she said it to me. And I asked her the question about the coil and, well, should I really be having it this age? I had one before and I had it taken out. And she said, no, you can have them until whenever. She was very matter of fact about it, and she was very matter of fact about HRT. And she said, yeah, I've got one. Doctors, all the doctors I know have. And I did trust her, but I still didn't take the HRT at that time. But it was, as I say, that urinary urgency I realised was when I was about 47.
It's really interesting that you mentioned you didn't take the HRT. Was that because you felt like, I don't need it, or I don't want to go down that route? Or I think it's quite a common feeling that a lot of women have.
Yeah, you never know when you're supposed to push the button.
Yeah.
When, in hindsight, I wish I had taken it right at that time, but I didn't. And it wasn't until I distinctly remember it was in November, and I probably had seen her like the prior year, and then again subsequent through the summer. The November time, I'd had all of the stuff. It was sitting there ready if I needed it. And I remember doing the run coaching and and thinking, oh, leaves. I'm going to slip on leaves. And I remember thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Tash?
Like the anxiety had come back.
I suddenly had anxiety that I was going to slip over. And I was like, where has this come from?
Yeah.
Honestly, it was unparalleled. And that was on a Monday night. And then the Tuesday, my husband and I went walking. And I remember, oh, could I hold you? And he went and looked at me and said, "You all right?" And I thought, I think I might need to start taking HRT.
Yeah. But that's interesting that you were self-aware enough, because I think it is quite common that these symptoms just build over time and you end up down the road not realising your life has changed significantly, because it's like a compounding effect of multiple symptoms. So it was
totally
almost lucky that you were aware to be like, hang on a minute, this one thing.
Yeah, and then joining the dots. So after that, then I started to look back and think, oh, that was that. Oh, that was that. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Was there any other taboos that you had around HRT?
I think it's very much a divided camp still. Some people are vehemently against it, and
what are the reasons that people are, that you see at least, that people are so against it?
breast cancer.
Yeah.
Is the biggest one that people are fearing. But the reality is that it's grin and bear it. You should just get through menopause, which is totally incorrect. Our hormones are declining and fluctuating. And that would be like saying, well, you're going to have a baby, just get on with it. Oh, yeah, but we've got medication and gas and air. And no, just get on with it. Well, we've evolved with science. Well, we've evolved with menopause as well. So it's supporting ladies through that. But it's moreover that HRT is there. Yes, a lot of people still see that as the point for symptoms, but actually there's more to it than that. If you think about it, it's about protecting your brain, it's about protecting your heart, it's protecting your muscles and your bones.
Because estrogen doesn't just control your periods. And I think that's something that's not widely understood. We know that it's a female hormone and it's involved in our cycle, but actually it has all these impacts on other areas of your body and your mental health, your brain function, like you said, even the way your muscles fire. You know, estrogen does so much more than just regulate your cycle.
There's estrogen receptors all around your body, and that's the point, in your brain, you know, in your muscles, absolutely everywhere. And that's why women, some women may not have any symptoms, and are not, you know, the point that I always say to my clients is that you're unique and your journey is unique. So you have to be your own best doctor. I'm not saying that I know my decision, and I'm being transparent that I have taken HRT and I know my reasons why. But there are equally ladies that have, you know, genuine reasons why they are not going to, and those risks. But I feel like there's a big grey area of people that are declining for the wrong reasons.
When you mean when you say declining, what do you mean? Because I know there's a
Declining of taking.
I don't know if anyone else knows the percentage, but I think it's about 20% of women can't take HRT. So just for medical reasons, like that they can't. So that's, you know, because sometimes there can be people who have got these very broad statements that, oh, everyone should just take HRT. You know, like it's great, it's going to help with absolutely everything, but that isn't always the case. And if 20% of women can't take it, which again, maybe Si can fact check me a little bit on this, that's a fifth of the population. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, what are going to be the treatments in essence, or the strategies put in place for these ladies?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say it's a unique journey, and every lady needs to advocate her own journey by researching and building the knowledge, which is why it's so important why we do the Meno chat, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you then can and that's a lot of the ladies that I have on onboarding calls, and some of the things that they've said, it's not talked about enough, even though they may have had conversations with their OBGYN. They haven't joined the dots. There's still so many gaps. Of course, it's not suitable for everyone, and equally, there are different ways that it can be prescribed, and tolerances are going to be different for every lady as well. And you have to maybe figure it out what is going to work best. And it's always a moving target. But I think if you put the symptoms to one side, actually think about what HRT studies. Now, there's not a huge amount of studies done because obviously they don't do a load of research on women. But of the studies that they have done and what they've found, you can go and have all of those studies that says how it supports your heart health, how it supports, the osteoporosis, and that's one of the biggest things that women are, hugely affected by.
Because your bone density starts to drop as your estrogen drops, which leaves you open to falls and fractures and all that.
Yeah, because you can see like different trajectories. Like you can see some women who have really looked after their health in their sort of 20s and 30s. What have we got? It's estimated that up to 20 to 30% of women have conditions that contradict the use of HRT.
So history of breast cancer, liver disease, cardiovascular disease, pregnancy, blood clot disorders. So yeah, there's a fair amount of women. But equally, there are things you can do to improve some of the symptoms. So if you are in that demographic, what would be the things that you'd say, yes, it's rubbish that you don't have the option, but let's see what we can work on to make your life better?
Can I just interject before that, though, that is, yes, if you was to take HRT orally, but that may not be the case if you take it topically because of how it's absorbed. So remember, when you're saying there about blood clots, yes, totally, if it's by tablet form, but not if it's then going through transdermal in the skin. And also then HRT sort of gets blanketed as one thing, and it's not just about the gels or the patches or the tablets. There's the vaginal health and the estrogen receptors down there, and ladies that may not be able to take certain things because of breast cancer may still be able to take topical estrogen creams and things that can change their life.
Well, I mean, HRT is hormone replacement therapy, which even the pill that women take from 14 years old is a form of hormone replacement therapy. Men who take testosterone replacement therapy is hormone replacement therapy. Like going through a male menopause or a female menopause is just a decline of hormones. But for women, it's not. Estrogen's the main one that gets brought up because that is the one where we see a really sharp decline, but it is also your progesterone and your testosterone as well. And your genetics and lifestyle can determine at which rate they can flux. So for some women, they may need a little bit more testosterone or may need a little bit of progesterone, or maybe the balance of what those hormones look like. And I think that's why having a really good doctor who's on board with whatever sort of hormone replacement therapy treatment you're going down is curious, is inquisitive, is regularly checking up on you and making sure that the balance and the dose that you're on works, especially going through something like perimenopause, where things can be a lot more in flux.
But that's the point, because not only are they fluctuating as they are declining, and as you mentioned, Jamie, the progesterone, that is the calming of the two hormones. That's the one that supports your sleep. So that was another one that I actually remember that I was waking up, once, twice every night. And I just thought that's what happens when you get old.
Yeah.
No, once I had the coil fitted, that was a progesterone arm, I slept through again. Maybe not last night, but...
Yeah, and actually, it's a bit of a urban legend, isn't really the right term, but, everybody knows your grandma doesn't sleep that well. Yeah. It's a thing, isn't it, that generation didn't have access to these things, and so they did suffer with that, and like you say, grin and bear it and get on with life. But if you've got the option, we all know what sleep deprivation is like. We don't need to go there if we don't need to.
Not when you add on some of the other symptoms that you can have, the irritability, the anxiety, the brain fog, just that loss of yourself. Yeah. It's not talked about enough of how serious it can make ladies feel. I literally spoke to one of my clients who came on board last week, and we spoke about it, and she said, I thought I was having a brain tumour.
Yeah. And you do see suicidal rates are the highest in women going through perimenopause and menopause and suicidal ideation, which is, if you are that person who's been a high achiever, had the family, succeeded in your career, and then all of a sudden you can't sleep. You've got brain fog. You don't feel yourself. You go in the toilet every 30 minutes and your life just feels like it's being pulled apart and you don't know why. And you can't really get the answers from Dr. Google, or maybe the doctor is maybe not being as supportive as yours was, which was fantastic to hear, but you do get a lot of doctors that can be dismissive. Especially we speak to a lot of women who would say, oh, you need to lose some weight. And it can be really, dismissive in the sense of like, my life feels like it's turning upside down and I'm getting no help or support.
And you're just telling me to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also generationally, this is the thing that I think you have to think of ladies, our grandmothers, or say my grandmother's age, that generation, it was different then. So ladies are having children later in life now. So when we're going and hitting this menopause, this is a new situation, a paradigm that you are now, the sandwich generation of perhaps looking after elderly parents, whilst having adolescent children, whilst you're going through menopause.
Yeah.
Back when your
I'm
grandparents...
working a full-time career.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Just to add that on top as well. Yeah.
And actually not even necessarily adolescents, because my friendship group, we're all like late 30s, early 40s having kids. And so, my mum started perimenopause at 37.
That's early.
So, I could very, very realistically have a toddler and be perimenopausal.
Yes.
And be juggling a career and parents and all the other stuff.
And that didn't happen. If you think back, the children would have left at 18, 20. They would have gone through menopause on their own. And I think there is that stigma by that generation. Well, I just had to grin and bear it. Well, that was because things were different then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but things have evolved now.
Oh, significantly different. The stress is on the women that you just mentioned there, where you've possibly got a sick parent or grandparents. You've got, possibly even siblings that you might have to step in and help around the house or around the family. Then you've got a full-time career managing your own family home. It's almost, I don't even know what the word is. It's just like too much. You know what I mean? And then you slap something in like, oh, now I can't sleep and now I'm feeling the way I am and I don't really know what's going on. Yeah. I mean, obviously this is why we're doing things like this podcast, isn't it? For more awareness. And it's great that the conversation is becoming more to the forefront, but it's a different time. It's a new time for sure.
Well, again, because typically ladies will put everyone else first. This is what we're doing at Body Smart, to get them to be selfless by actually showing up for themselves first. And that's not selfish, but that is the point, that they feel like they have to grin and bear it. And, I can do this. I don't need to have any support. I don't need to take it. And again, every lady is unique. So one lady may go through with no symptoms. But the point is that from the science of what's been said about HRT, it's not just for the symptoms. You have to remember about your heart health. For me, I was straight away in the camp of wanting to take HRT, despite the risk. And that's where you have to balance the risk. Like everything is a risk ratio. You could be run over by a bus. Like there's always a risk in everything we do, but you have to work that out for yourself. But from a brain health perspective and the estrogen receptors and what that can do, if you think about those hot flashes that you're having at night time, your brain's basically frying. What's happening to those brain cells? My mum had terrible hot flushes. My mum never took HRT. My mum is only in her 70s, early 70s, and my mum is losing her memory. I'm on HRT.
I think, like you said earlier, everybody's situation, you have to manage those risks. But you did actually show me some really interesting stats on the risks, because particularly the breast cancer one is the thing that people get concerned about. And so if we look at what's the actual change in risk, what you've given me here is 23 cases of breast cancer of women in their 50s per every 1,000 women is just the average population, like general prevalence. And there's an additional 4 cases for those who use combined HRT. So if you say an additional 4 on top of 23, it sounds like, oh, that's quite a lot, but that's in 1,000 women. And I think that is where, when we come to medical risk, it's really hard to try and imagine, like, what does that mean for me? Like, I don't even know 1,000 women. How can I compute what that means to me? And I think that's why this does feel like such a grey area, because someone might think, oh, well, actually 4 extra is not that much in 1,000. Someone else might see that same stat and think, well, if it was only 23 net and now it's 27, that's quite a big increase. So it's a really hard call to make, I think, for people to
But then we
judge
need
that
to
risk.
put into context the risks of breast cancer. And ladies are at risk of breast cancer. Sometimes it can be down to lifestyle, sometimes it can be down to genetics, sometimes it can just be bad luck. But women do still get breast cancer, whether they take HIIT or not, and that's the point. So when we look at these statistics, what about the statistics for, how much you drink and the risk of you getting a cancer on the back of that? What about the risk of you being £10, £20, £50, £100 overweight? What are the risks there of you developing a cancer? What are those risks?
And
Really
there's
good
also
point.
is like, when we're looking at that, it's like, for some women, if menopause or perimenopause is wreaking that much havoc on your life, and then you're able to take something like HRT, and then that becomes the catalyst that gets you back to moving more, gets you starting to strength train, exercise, do the pros outweigh the possible cons, because you're now living an overall net healthier lifestyle. That's ultimately for you to decide. I would say yes, just like because of all the research and data that we see on like just even exercise and like doing 8,000 steps a day versus 4, all cause mortality goes down by 50%. Doing strength training and making sure, because osteoporosis is something we've spoken about a lot. Most people don't know they've got osteoporosis unless they go and get an MRI, which people just don't generally go and do that until they break the bones. And then once you break your bones and you go, oh, you've got osteoporosis, it's like, what's the cure? Oh, there isn't one. Try and make your bones a bit stronger, But if you do strength training and you lift weights and you keep your muscle on your body, you can avoid, getting osteoporosis. So like the catalyst that sometimes HRT can be, so you sleep well, feel good, appetite's in a good place, mood's in a great place, can perform, can show up. The net positive to that can be huge, because it can be crippling for so many women going through menopause.
I mean, I would take the risks, and I've weighed it up to take the risks that I protect my brain, I protect my heart, I protect my bones and my muscles as much as I can. But like you said, Jamie, the fundamentals have to be adhered to as well. And this is why we say to ladies, you're future-proofing yourself. So when you're showing up and doing the workout that you don't want to do because, you're tired, you are loading your bones, you are moving your muscles, and muscles are the powerhouse of your body, so they are metabolic. That your metabolic rate is going to stay higher if you have more muscle on your body, and that is what you need.
Did you know we have an award-winning one-on-one coaching program designed especially for women aged over 30 who want to lose between 15 and 60 pounds? Just like this podcast, our Body Smart method cuts through all the BS out there and brings together the latest weight loss science to fast-track your weight loss. So if you want to lose 15 to 60 pounds in the next 6 months, guaranteed, or you don't pay, apply at bodysmartfitness.com.
We've been slaughtered about this online, saying, people's metabolisms don't actually slow down until they're after 60 years old if you keep the same amount of muscle on your body and you keep an active lifestyle. So if you're able to, you're doing 8,000 steps, you keep doing 8,000 steps up to the age of 60, and you keep the same amount of muscle on your body, your metabolism will not slow down. Every time we say this, we go, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Have you heard of menopause? You need to understand hormones. And that's because, after the age of 50, you'll start to decline around 1% of your muscle mass. And I think that goes up again at 40. I think the rate increases of how much muscle you lose.
So at the age of 30, it will start going down. If you don't strength train, you don't get enough protein, all the things that we would advocate for. But that research was around after 60, it will, even if you have been doing all the right things, in inverted commas, it will start to decline. But it's tiny. It's like 0.1%.
Yeah, which is.
So if you're doing all the right things. So this is why, like you're saying, Tash, you can future-proof yourself. Like all these things that we've just accepted, or we haven't, our generations before us have accepted as part of aging, we don't have to accept them. there's things that we can take control of. And I think that's what's the empowering message that you really pass on to your clients is you don't have to have your mum's menopause, right? This is how yours can look. Let's do this. So what would that look like for most of your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. You have control, and that's what is so empowering, and that's what I'm passionate about sharing, that there are certain things that you can't control, but control the controllables. And that means making sure you do strength train. It's making sure that you do put good food in your body, but we all know that we like to, enjoy life. I mean, it would be very boring to just eat clean all of the time, and I don't profess to. It's about balance, but it's making sure that you are hitting that protein, and that's the first thing that you think about with every meal. It's making sure that you are active, that you are moving. It's non-negotiable. You've got to get your steps in. It's like paying rent. You've just got to get it done. But it doesn't have to be on a 24-hour clock, so think about that as well and be flexible. It's about the sleep, and we're all going to have those days where we don't sleep well. It happens, but also not let that knock you. You just always want to try, as you're always saying, the 1% better.
Yeah.
For a lot of the women that come to you, I can imagine you having this conversation and going, but that all just sounds like so basic.
That is the problem, that I think it causes paralysis almost, because they come in most of the time, perfectionist mindset, all or nothing. They want the results yesterday, and they want to see something big and grand straight away. And trying to really, truly understand that it's slow and steady wins the race, marathon, not a sprint. And those small changes, where, so many different analogies. It's like scoring a goal but not letting a goal in. It's like it's the 1% that add up, but the 1% that you're leaking, all of that. But it's recognizing, but those 1% was not worth doing. Or those licks, bites, tastes didn't really add up, but they do.
Yeah.
Both ways.
So it really is that, isn't it? That analysis by paralysis, which is just like and a lot of those women are coming in and they want you to go, hey, take these supplements, you know what I mean? Like that's what it wants to be. And it's like,
do this magical workout plan.
And then it's just like, oh, right, how many steps are you doing? Oh, 3,000. Okay, let's try and get that up to 5. Okay, you doing any strength training? No, let's start doing 2 30-minute full body workouts a week. Let's start building that. You got any protein in your diet? Oh, like 40 grams a day. Okay, let's look to double that and get a little bit more fiber in there too. Is that it? Yeah, let's start there. You know what I mean? Let's focus on the big sort of rocks to begin with, and then we can start getting into more of the details of nutrition. But again, it's the simplicity of that sometimes, even though these are the big bedrocks of health, movement, nutrition, sleep. And then obviously supplements and hormones do play a role, especially, going through menopause, but in general anyway. But yeah, I think it is the same in pretty much everything, but very much with people's health. They want that magic pill. They want that magic wand.
And there's so many things out there claiming to be that magic pill, isn't there?
Yes. But also there's so many excuses, like you say, cut the BS. When you hear, well, I can't get that many steps. I can't get that protein in. It's limiting beliefs, and you've got to cut the BS on yourself with that rubbish. Because if it's a case of, well, I don't eat meat. Yeah, no, neither do I. I work long hours. Yes, so do I. I'm at my desk, 10 hours. Yes, so am I. What's the next one?
Yeah. Keep them coming. Yeah, I've done it all. I've had them all.
There's a choice, isn't there?
Yeah.
And as Tony Robbins would say about standards, the 5 standards, and you can see someone in 10 years what they'll look like by how they look now.
What are the 5 standards?
I don't know what his ones are,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
generally it is that you look after yourself. You recognise that you're worth it. And I think it's not to be disrespectful or not say that there aren't those excuses. They are genuine. I totally get that. And there are days that are just real shows. And that happens, and you've just got to do your best. This is where you pivot. But the reality is that you've got to show up and try and do something, and something is always better than nothing.
Yeah. And also, like you said earlier, there isn't a 24-hour clock. So, well, there is, but your body doesn't know what that is. So if you did 4,000 steps today, but you can do 9,000 tomorrow and 9,000 the next day, and it kind of balances out, cool. do that. You don't have to beat yourself up that you only did 4,000 today and think, right, that's it, the whole week is ruined.
Oh yeah, you get that. I mean, you get that. And to be honest, I had that once where I was like, yeah, 10,000 steps a day, I'm going to get them for a year. And then one day, I forgot.
That is such a mindset that our clients have. I'm going to do it 10,000 steps for a year.
Yeah. And I did it. And I, you know, I've
you
chased
did 10,000 steps a day.
No, I was trying to.
Oh, right.
And then on one day, I forgot, and I got to 9,980 or something.
Oh no.
I know how the ladies feel because I was that person. I thought, this isn't healthy. I shouldn't be doing that. So, you know, whatever they've experienced, I've been there, got the T-shirt. What I now do is, mine is 8 to 10,000. That is what my standard is. Last Friday, I got 5,000. It was an incredibly busy day. I'm not beating myself up, but guess what? I got 19,000 on Saturday. I got 16,000 on Sunday. Hey, you even it out.
Yeah. And same with protein as well. I have to say I'm a lot more on it in the week because I have more of a schedule and a routine and I have my 4 meals a day and I'm more in charge of my food. And at the weekend, it's all fluid. But I don't let that stress me out because I know I kind of over-egged it in the week. So, you know, if I don't hit my goal on a Saturday, it's not the end of the world. Whereas I think there is this tendency to feel like we have to do all of the things all of the time for it to count. And actually, that's not how your body works. Like what you do the majority of the time is what matters.
It's just about showing up. And I love the saying, give yourself a gift in 24 hours time. So like you say, do your hard. Today I had my cold shower.
Love it.
I really turned it on cold. I actually did a run as well and I was really tired. So I did 2 really what I would class as my hards that tomorrow I'm going to be grateful for. And I think when you think about it like that, and then what is this thing that you're going to do today that you're happy to be doing, I'm here. So there's like a gift for tomorrow. And if you're always thinking about that, because we want to future-proof ourselves for the next decade and the next decade, but that's just like, you know, you can't get that into your head. But honestly, when you're in your 70s and if you haven't done it, you really wish you would have had.
Oh, of course. I mean, and regret, like, I've spent about 10 years ago, I used to follow a guy called Gary Vee, and he used to say, regret is poison. He used to always say this, and he was trying to build self-awareness and to, you know, put things in perspective. And he was like, go and spend time in an old person's home. And I went and did this for like a good couple of weekends and a bounce, in fact, maybe more. And wow, like you really hear how much like regret is poison when you speak to people when they know their time's done. Like there's no winding the clock back now, whether it's career or a relationship or anything else, or they've lost their vitality, which is very much what we're talking about today. And they know there's no going back. It's too late at this point. Like their lifespan is going to be high. You know, they might get to their 80s, but their health span went a decade ago or a decade and a half ago. So they've had the last 15 years in a wheelchair, on crutches, you know, poor mobility, using a walking stick, taking lots of medication. You know, maybe they weren't as aware because of how health conscious more people are nowadays. But like when you see the same people who have gone into their 70s and are on no medication or very little medication and have got the mobility and can jump up out of a couch. Like my grandma is 93. I walked into her house the other day, she tried to trip me up and put me on my ass there. You know, and she's just like, she makes a point of like, look how fast I can stand up off the couch. She springs up in a sort of a squat. And it's just that youthfulness and vitality of like, it is really hard, you know, like I'm 32 to think of like when I'm 70 or when I'm 80, do I need to care about that? But when you can like look at the future generations and be like, is that what you want? Because that last decade of your life can be either amazing or can be incredibly painful. And
just slowly towards your death. And that's the point. I think too many people are thinking that when, if you break it down to just what can I do hard today that tomorrow I'm going to be proud of or happy about, then you only have to do that every day, do you? And it doesn't have to be anything major. It could be that, yeah, I didn't want to eat, you know, that. I wanted carbs, but I had protein. I turned the shower on to cold for 10 seconds. I got 10 extra steps that I wasn't going to do. You know, if you just keep it simple, but we just still don't think that that simple and small is doing anything. But it does if you do it every day. Builds.
Yeah. Definitely. And I love that that's like a little mindset shift that people can practice daily, because it is like a little reflection you could do each morning. And definitely mindset work it just shines through in everything your clients say about you. You know, you are a Wonder Woman in helping ladies find their confidence, which I think at this time of life, it can feel really shaky. So what would your advice be to somebody who feels like they kind of lost themselves a bit, that confidence that maybe they had in their career and in their social life has just slipped away? Where do you start to help these women build it back up?
Firstly, I recognise that and understand. So it's about that empathy. So it's listening, truly listening to know how they feel, and relatability to understand that. And then it is about putting small incremental steps in. So one of my clients sent a wonderful check-in on Monday. She said, just from how she thinks now, she's in her 30s though, so it's not she's not in menopause, perimenopause. But we've done a lot of deep work, and it's just that consistency of the language that you tell yourself. So I'll pick the clients up when they're saying, you know, oh, I might do this, this possibly, you know, or they're not being kind to themselves. I always pick it up and I say, rephrase that. You know, let's say this in a different way. And then journaling, positive affirmations, and everyone goes, oh, yeah, whatever. And then they don't do it. No, honestly, if you do that, there are so many negative thoughts. We had obviously Coach Lee do a round table and saying how many negative thoughts are going through the brain. I don't know off the top of my head, but we are so negative because that's what keeps us alive. So don't see it as a bad thing. That's our primal state. That's what we do. We look for danger. Otherwise, we'd be dead. So accept it, and that inner critic is helpful, but question it as well. And you have to sort of neutralize one of those thoughts with 4 good thoughts. Now, if you think how many negative thoughts you have a day, I don't think ladies look in the mirror and think, oh, yeah, I've got that fat thighs. Oh, yeah, but I've got lovely hair and I've got lovely nails and my eyes are sparkly. No, they don't do that, do they?
No.
Not without someone saying you really need to do that.
No.
Yeah. And that can feel really awkward though, can't it? Especially if you've had a lifetime of the negative inner monologue. To stand there and find something, like even one thing that you like, can feel really difficult.
So you break it down, and I totally understand that, because that's what I was saying about that lifetime shift. Up until the age of 45, I had no self-confidence. I was insecure. I never felt I was good enough. I thought everyone was cleverer, prettier, whatever it was, they were more than I ever was. I was in my own head. And if I hadn't decided to get out of my own head, I would still be thinking that now. And, you know, I live by the get comfortable being uncomfortable. And honestly, life can change. So you may not love yourself. And it depends, obviously, how deep-rooted those issues are. But you can like yourself a little bit more. And that's doable. So just break it down.
Yeah. And also, I think this concept of like, you've got to love yourself, practice self-love. It's become such a blur thing that's everywhere. It actually means a very different thing to every single person. And I'm a big believer of you can love yourself in the way that you can take care of yourself and respect yourself. You don't have to be gushing love for yourself. I think for me, self-love is more about like showing love through how I take care of my body and myself. I wouldn't stand in the mirror and be like, oh, I just love my arms or my whatever. You know, I'm not that person. But I definitely would say, yeah, I do love myself because I take care of myself in a way you would take care of somebody that you love.
It's a very hard thing to say. And I remember putting my son to bed it was many years ago. So he must have only been about 5 or something. And he said something. I think you learn so much from your children as well. And he said something about, and I love myself. And I thought, oh, get you. Because I would never have said that about myself. And I thought, oh, really, son? He was so right. You have got to love yourself, because think of yourself as like a Ferrari. Yeah, we are worth more than any Ferrari that's the top of the range. This body is amazing. It's the only one you'll ever have. and you can't have, well, you sort of can have new parts put on, but you know what I mean, not like in the same realms as, not completely, but you know, like a Ferrari can be changed, updated, but it's priceless, your body, and it's the only vehicle you have.
Are you ready to lose 30 to 60 pounds in under 6 months without restrictive diets, countless hours exercising, or any guesswork? Well, we help women over 30 do exactly that. Lose weight guaranteed. And 5 to 10 pounds a month is the average weight loss. And that's not a cherry pick statistic. That is the average. Your weight loss results are 100% guaranteed. You will lose unwanted body fat. So apply at bodysmartfitness.com. That's bodysmartfitness.com, but only if you're a woman over 30 and want to lose 30 to 60 pounds.
So we've got a few menopause myths that I wanted to ask you about. Is that all right if we do like a bit of a quick fire? Because as we said at the beginning of the episode, it's not really talked about that much. It's more becoming a subject on social media and in the press of people talking about menopause, but I still feel like there's so much misinformation or conflicting information out there. So I'm just going to fire them at you, if that's all right. Okay, so number one, menopause happens at a specific age.
There is classed an age, and this is by country as well, so it is you know, dependent on that. But in the UK, they say the average age of menopause is 51. But it's not that that's, oh, you hit 51 and you're in menopause. What they mean is that that's likely if you take a cross section of X amount of women. But menopause is 12 months of not having had a period. Now, if you go 11 months and almost there, and then you get a period, bad luck, you're going to have to do another 12 months.
To square one.
Yeah, and that's when you'll only be classed as post-menopause. So menopause is just literally like the anniversary of 12 months of no period.
And everything before that is perimenopause,
Yeah.
which can go on for as long as 8 years.
Yeah, so this is why you have to think of menopause as a transition. It can span 3-4 decades if you think about it.
Wow.
If there are some poor ladies that may have, for whatever reason, have had to, you know, gone into perimenopause, it could be surgically or whatever, in their late 20s.
Because you have that if you have like a hysterectomy, you
Yeah.
will go into early menopause.
Well, it depends if you have your ovaries taken out or not, you know, because obviously then you may still then be producing estrogen. But there are so many different reasons. It's classed as early menopause if you're below 45 in the UK. But there are obviously, so 51 is where you're thinking it happens. So, but this is, we hear that number. So I think, oh, I'm going to be, right, menopause, 51. Oh, no, I'm 51. No, still got periods.
And also, conversely, I think what happens is people who are having symptoms in early 40s think, oh, no, that's a 50s problem. That's not me. And so they discount the things that you were experiencing as they must be something else.
Yeah.
And who did we have on the other day and said they had a client who got pregnant when they were 53?
Oh, Dr. Paula, yeah.
Dr. Paula, and she was saying because of that sort of like, oh, I'm in my 50s now, surely this is sort of past, and then got pregnant and had a baby at 53. So
it's very person dependent, but we're saying average in the UK is 51 for menopause. However, peri could start a long time before that.
So menopause is just 12 months. Menopause is classed 12 months without a period, and then you go post.
And you said country dependent. So like how wild of a discrepancy in countries?
I think I don't know the numbers of the age specifically, but Japan don't have a word for menopause.
Okay.
So they obviously don't have the data for it then.
Well, look at the blue zones and look how they live, and then you can understand why they potentially don't have a word for it, how their diet is and
the way they live.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I was about to say like what's in the water. You know what I mean? If there's going to be, if there's going to be something different between like if it could be years per se between different countries.
Be an interesting one to look up. So myth number 2: menopause causes extreme mood swings.
Yeah, so with fluctuating hormones, you know, with your cycle, you're going to find that, and this is interesting as well, that a lot of ladies won't even know the follicular luteal phase. What? The what? Day one of your bleed is day one of the follicular phase up until ovulation of day 14 if you're on a 28-day cycle, and then 15 to 28 is the luteal phase. They're like, what? Funicular, you're generally going to maybe have obviously the symptoms, the cramps and all the nastiness of that period on day 1 to 7, but you are likely to see that you are feeling stronger and more confident in that stage of your cycle. Whereas the luteal phase, like 10 days to 14 days prior to your period, that's where you are craving all the foods, that's where your anxiety is higher, that's where you can't live for toffee, generally.
Yep.
And that's what the reason you were bringing up about your cycle is because as your hormones fluctuate in your cycle, that's what's causing those changes. And then obviously during perimenopause, your hormones are fluctuating even more. And
So if you was to have like an empty vehicle of a female form and think of when she's in her 20s, up to her eyes is filled with estrogen and all the hormones. And then as we go through, obviously, having babies and then into our 40s, by the time we get into our like 60s, 70s, the estrogen level is around our ankles in how much we've got in our whole body. So within that, they are fluctuating every month as well. So although you may not be having a period, you still are going through cycles.
And with the mood swings, obviously you've experienced like mood swings, I feel like is such a diminishing word. You've experienced like mood changes and like dark mood. How would you say that compares to what you experienced during your cycle or other times in life?
So I never actually really tracked my cycle when I had regular periods. Didn't need to. Yes, of course, the usual mood difference, like you're a little bit more emotional. I always found that I was less confident driving than, when I knew my period was due. But the moods that are different, it's... you sort of start to care less in a good way. I can't explain it, but your tolerance is run out.
So
you're not the first person I've heard say that, actually. You're just like, you know what, I don't care what anyone else thinks now.
Yeah, I've spent a lifetime of worry. I do still care because we're social beings and of course we've got to care what other people think. And I do, but I care a lot less to the point where I was causing tripping myself up and turning myself inside out. I don't do that so much now. Thank you, menopause. That's something positive. But you'll get like the irritability or it will literally come over you where just everything, well, for me, like everything's aggravating me. It could be, like the telly, the this, the that, the that. And it's just like, so many times now I've gone, just take myself to bed. And it's like, and if my husband tries to be and he knows a lot and he's really, really supportive about the menopause and is learning. So I'm really grateful for that. But even then when he'll say something about, and it's just leave me alone. And then like the next day I'll say, sorry, I just had I was either wanting to cry all day or I just felt like I wanted to rip someone's head off.
I think you touched on a really important point there because we've said on social media and in the press, menopause is being talked about, but in women's social media and women's press. And actually, men are the people who generally have to live with that as well. And they're not getting the education. And actually, it can cause so much tension and maybe what's going on in your own body and you're dealing with it internally, but he has no idea what's happened to this woman that I'm living with.
I think neither of you know really, that's the point. And then throw in children as well. So yes, it can be and that's what I was saying about you might have adolescents or young children. Can adolescent children, menopausal women, that mix isn't good, is it?
That was what happened in our house when my mum went through it because I was 13. She was perimenopausal. It was a war zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, she didn't tell me at the time that's what happened. It was only later on that I found out that that's why. And then she got the coil and then mum stopped being crazy. That she'll genuinely say, that's what happened. But you're right, the mix was not nice for anybody.
No.
And it's not just the woman that's going through it that's affected.
But she doesn't always know. Like my husband is really, really supportive and he's done loads of research on the back of it as well. And have you looked at this? Have you seen this? Because he recognises it's something he needs to understand and learn. Also because he needs to know when to give me space. But then I think also then he taps on the male menopause and that's a whole other subject. But
But the mood swings, I know all of these things are very individual. So your experience is going to be different to the next woman, to the next woman. Some women might not even find they suffer with mood imbalances, but they might suffer more with physical things. So I think it's really important when we're busting these myths to say, like, none of these are blanket either. Like, the symptoms aren't like, you are menopausal, you will have this.
No, and also don't think that you've got it all sussed, even if you are on HRT, because I fell into that trap as well. It still sideswipes you.
Yeah. We've covered this one a little bit already. Myth number 3, you can't get pregnant during menopause. Well, I think we have to define menopause and post-menopause, because post-menopause...
Yeah. Well, post-menopause, you have had a complete year with no period. So in theory, that should be impossible.
Yeah. Because you've got no eggs left to be released. No. But actually, perimenopause can go on for a very long time, and you absolutely, definitely can get pregnant.
And if you were 11 months in, and then you possibly could think you were post, and you weren't, and then you got pregnant. Yeah.
So use contraception.
And also, if you are taking HRT, remember that's replenishing estrogen as well, so that can have an effect on your periods, and that can, I've come across clients before, where I've been told that they fell pregnant when they started taking HRT.
Oh wow, okay. So definitely take precautions, ladies, unless you want to have an extra bonus child.
Bonus child, love that.
Myth number 4: weight gain during menopause is inevitable.
Oh, this is a podcast episode on its own, isn't it? It's harder, but it's not. What happens is your body shape changes. So typically, if you think that you are perhaps a pear shape, you go into an apple. And the reason being is it's down to, again, the fluctuating hormones, that the estrogen is decreasing and your body is trying to replenish or grab estrogen. So it's laying down fat stores typically around your tummy to get that. It is harder. I say to ladies, like, you've lost your get out of jail card free. But if you are doing all of the right things, because I spoken to so many ladies where they haven't changed their diet and they have gained weight. That has happened. And that's where I'm quite an advocate of taking HRT, because I haven't. And, I haven't seen that, but I am still only 51. So, yeah.
And you also do all the right things, as in you've been training for a long time, you've got a good muscle base, you are active, you eat well, you limit alcohol, all these things that add up. And one of the things that we always say as well is it depends on what's a priority in your life, because if weight gain is something that you're like, oh, it's a bit annoying, but it happens, it's more likely that's going to happen. If you're like, no, I do not want to gain weight, it's not inevitable. You absolutely can take control of it, and you can absolutely not gain weight. It will be harder, like you say, and you might have to tweak those variables more than somebody who's not in perimenopause or menopause.
I think of the women that we're coaching through to graduation that are hitting their ultimate goal weight, that are saying that it's the lowest weight they've ever been in 20 years. I'm wearing clothes that I had when my children were young, and they thought it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So it's very much that, isn't it? That foundation of health, of everything that we've spoken about. And then if you add something like HRT onto it as well, you aren't having that decline in hormones. So that menobelly, or that a lot of women talk about, that can be avoided with early intervention and a healthy lifestyle.
I think potentially, you're still having the fluctuating hormone levels, but yes, I do feel that possibly helps alongside everything else. But yeah, I don't think that you can just go and slap on HRT and that then you're not going to gain weight. No.
Yeah, you've got to do all the other lifestyle bits as well. The same as we always say on anything, isn't it? It's a holistic management plan as opposed to one magic fix. We're going to have one more menopause myth, which is HIIT is bad for menopausal women because it raises cortisol, which causes belly fat.
Cortisol is another hormone, so it's a stress hormone, but it's not a bad hormone. It gets a bad rap if it's in the right doses. So exercise is a stressor. And our bodies require stress, but just not that continual low-level stress that we have where we're sitting in a job all of the time. So a HIIT, if that's your bag and that works. But a lot of ladies then find that if there's a lot of jumping, they may have issues with their knees and joints because, again, joint pain is another one. So it depends. It cortisol does elevate, but this is a good hormone, and it's for a short period of time, and your body then recovers. So yes, you can do HIIT if you want to do HIIT. Do what you want to do that gets you moving.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get confused with, like, they'll say, oh, I'm doing a HIIT class, but then if you were to actually look at the class, it's like circuit training. But if you are actually doing like proper HIIT and you were doing something like that,
where if you can just define that's because the intensity.
Yeah, the intensity. So like HIIT would be, you're going to go and do a 100-meter sprint, and you're going to sprint the hardest you possibly can, and you're going to walk back, and you're going to do that for like 10 rounds like that. Like you will be on the floor after that. You cannot do that every day and recover optimally.
And you couldn't do it for an hour.
Yeah,
you can book into a HIIT class for an hour.
Probably
at the
about
gym.
4 minutes. This is what they're saying with HIIT. You would be doing it for such short increments, and it would probably be like, 50 meters full pelt, and that would be RPE, 9 off the scale. But, literally your lungs are burning. Your heart rate is through the roof, but then you recover, and then you go and do it again, and you probably do like 4 or 8 rounds or something, or whatever it is.
Yeah, when I used to do a lot of my athletic training, it was literally 4 200-meter sprints with a minute rest in between, and then we would take 30 minutes off, and then we would do it again, and then that was it. That would be it twice a week. Because anymore, if you're going at the actual intensity of HIIT, is like you just cannot recover from it at all. But yeah, there definitely, I think, are some women who are doing HIIT training, like trying to go that intense 5 days a week, and then they're wondering why it's negatively affecting their sleep, and the cortisol's high all the time. Like that possibly is too much stress on the body, and that's not just for going through perimenopause, menopause, that's just generally anyway.
Yeah.
Dialing that back where you're maybe doing that level of intensity like twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, is just going to benefit your sleep, your energy levels, your recovery in a really positive way.
I think so. A lot of the time, the drive to do that level of intensity exercise also comes from that perfectionist mindset, and more is better, more. But also, in this phase of life where you feel like everything is so out of control and your body's not doing what it's told, it kind of makes sense from everything you've been told over the years. Well, if I just work out harder, if I just push myself harder, this will work. And actually what we're saying is, do you know what? Maybe doing something a bit less intense might serve you as a person, as a whole person, better. But if you love intense exercise, there's nothing to say in menopause you should not do it or you cannot do it.
No, I mean, the main point is that you need to load your bones, move your muscles, and you need to lift heavy. So again, as Jamie's defined, like how hard are you actually working? That's the problem.
Sorry, we need to talk about this because I got an email from Women's Health magazine last week, and it was like lift light, get lean for menopausal women, and I wanted to throw my computer out the window. Why are we sending stuff like? Why is a magazine called Women's Health sending stuff like that in 2024?
Unless it's for endurance training, maybe. Lots of reps.
But like when you say lift heavy, can you give us an indication of like how much weight would you lift for, say, a shoulder press?
I would go in kgs as in UK. I did a class last night and we did a ladder up. So it was 1 rep of a kettlebell swing, followed by a shoulder press, each arm, followed by a goblet squat. And it laddered up. So 1, 2, 3, got up to 11 and just about halfway through round 11. We got, I think, 20 seconds rest, and then we had to ladder back down. I had 10 kg dumbbells. My non-dominant arm was screaming at me at round 5 on the way up.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
So 10 kilos is about 22 pounds.
That's quite heavy. To be honest, that is quite heavy. But I would say for ladies in a gym, they certainly 5 kg upwards. They want to be challenging. But we don't want to put numbers like that because then there is comparison, again, and that's a bad point. But you work it to your RPEs. So what you want to be doing is that you are starting to grunt and groan. You are starting to grimace. You're starting to not like it. Those last 2 reps, you want to find that it's challenging. Like you've got to push through a little bit of that pain, but be sensible. When I say pain, meaning this is getting really bloody hard.
Yeah.
But
if you can go to the gym and you can do any exercise, whether that's a free weight, a barbell, or a machine, and you can do 12 to 15 reps, not like comfortably, like they're a bit challenging, like that's a very good sign that you can lift the next weight up. And you can probably go up and aim for somewhere in maybe that 4 to 8 rep range and see how you get on and just challenge, because that's something I've always noticed with all the women I've coached have been, they are like way stronger than they give themselves credit for. They're the lighter weights at the higher rep ranges, and sometimes just that permission to be like, hey, we'll just try the heavier weight. You know, we're not going to do anything where you can possibly hurt yourself, or we're going to, you know, do anything where you're going to drop the weight. Like, you're already comfortable and strong at this weight. We're just going to take that next step up. And we go for like that 6 to 8 rep range. And like, I've just done a dumbbell row with 15 kilos, you know, like a 30 pound, like didn't, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, what do you expect? You pick up the kid out the car seat, which probably weighs about 30 pounds, and you've got shopping, and you know what I mean? They're already have got this strength in other areas of their lives. But then just when they look at a 15 kilo dumbbell, there's no way I could lift that. It's like,
but you want to make sure that ego is left at the door. So whilst we are saying lift heavy, it's not just chasing the numbers. It's always with good form.
And building up.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I do think it's important to put some numbers out there, because another thing that angers me is you see dumbbell sets that are 1 kilo, 2 kilo, 3 kilo. I'm like, guys, go to your kitchen cupboard and get some water bottles. Like, don't waste your money. But this is what women have been marketed. They're like pretty neoprene dumbbells in pink and pastel blue. You don't need that bullshit. You actually need to go and get some decent weights if you want to build the muscle and challenge your body. And that's why I think actually having in your mind, oh, Tash does 10 kilo. Okay. Well,
I'd normally do heavy. Like, we were told on that particular workout, go to 60% of what you would normally do, because it was a ladder.
yes.
So normally I would lift heavier than that, but on that ladder, up and down, no, that was like, so 1 rep, 2 rep, 3 rep, 4 rep, and going up was a killer. But also, the only time that I would say that you can utilize those 3K dumbbells, your 2K, or even body weight, is in your lateral raises.
I was going to say lateral raises.
Yeah, that's one exercise where there was dumbbells to do. So I think they kick everyone's ass, don't they? But I think something that's really important to cover, because some people will go, oh, I've been doing leg press in the gym, and I've got, you know, 20 kilos aside or 45 pounds aside. And then, you know, after a month, I've got another one on. It's like, wow, like, you know, I've doubled the weight that I'm putting on the machine. But then I'm doing a lateral raise and I've been stuck on 2 kilos for 6 months and it's not going up. But if you look at the lateral head of the muscle, which is just this tiny muscle on the side of your shoulder, it's tiny. When you do a leg press, you're using your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, which are the biggest muscles in the body, your calves. So you're using these ginormous muscles. If you think about the muscle on the side of your shoulder, how many times that could go into there. So relatively it makes sense, but I think sometimes we can actually get like a little bit demotivated. Like, why aren't I progressing faster in these upper body movements versus the lower body? But it's often just relatively down to the size of the muscle.
But think about also when you're lifting that arm out to the side, that 2 kg is actually times 9 times 10 out on the joint. So I actually get ladies to do it body weight, and I will, when I'm in person with them, will give a little push on my hands and ask them to push up against me, and then the hands down, and then I'll say, that's rep 1. Right now, push harder against me. Now dial up to 2, dial up to 3, and I'll take my hands away and I'll keep on doing it until their arms are literally shaking. They're not even got any weight in their hands. Muscle connection.
Yeah, super important. As you can tell, you got 3 personal trainers on the conversation of training, and we all got very excited and could go on for hours. So I think we should probably wrap this one up. But it has been an absolute pleasure having you in, Tash, and especially having the personal experience you have. We've got our menopause specialist coaches in the team, but you are so open to share your experience, and I just think it's so powerful. Like you said, when someone is speaking to a coach who's been there, it's a whole different ball game. So please keep sharing and doing what you do, because you are such an inspiration to so many of our clients and women all around the world as well.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Tash.
Thanks. Wow, what an insightful and really honest chat with Coach Natasha today. And she has such a wealth of experience of going through perimenopause herself. And it's really helpful to hear from women who are experiencing the same struggles as you. If you did find today's episode helpful, then I definitely recommend going and searching episode number 70 of the Body Smart podcast, where we had Anis Mukherjee, who is not only postmenopausal herself, but she is an endocrinologist. So she's a hormone doctor. She knows her stuff when we're talking about the menopause. Really great episode, full of practical tips for you to go and have your best second half of life.